As of this week, according to the CDC, there are nearly 400 severe lung illnesses linked to vaping. 6 people have died, and that's in 36 states across the country. The response by the federal government has been to order a blanket ban on all liquid vaping products in pods. You may be familiar with these. But the problem is that going to stop the deaths? Is it going to stop any of the illnesses, or are we just causing more problems? This is now streaming on Facebook and live for this Friday. I'm Elliot Francis. Thank you for joining us. 7 million people, it's a rough estimate, call themselves vapors. They're committed to it. They've been doing this for 10 years. They consider it to be a legitimate alternative to smoking, and some people would bear that out, and they would also consider it to be very safe. However, the events of this week and of the past 2 weeks or so have thrown a monkey wrench in things, and threatens to upend a business and a culture that has found vaping very safe and a useful alternative to a very big health problem. Joining us to try and straighten out this issue going forward is the president of the American Vaping Association, Gregory Conley. Joins us from his offices in New Jersey. So some people call it a hobby that's very safe, and this caused a lot of people and helped a lot of people off of smoking, seems to be threatened by these illnesses that have come down. But going forward, it would seem that the fix is going to cause more problems than it solves. Where does the AVA come down on all this?
So the fix is actually completely misguided and aimed at the exact wrong products. First, with nicotine vaping products, we don't actually say the word safe, because nothing in life is safe. No nicotine product is safe. While nicotine does not cause cancer, does not really contribute to heart disease, a whole host of things associated with smoking, but no product containing it or that you inhale is 100% safe. We go with at least 95% less harmful, according to the Royal College of Physicians, Public Health England, and others. But what we have happening across America is actually a problem with contaminated THC oil cartridges, people inhaling oil into their lungs. THC, it's not the THC that's the problem. It is the thickeners, the solutions that you have these unscrupulous, probably unsanitary drug dealing conditions filling these cartridges. And then you have packaging, professional looking packaging, making people believe that these are legitimate licensed medical or recreational products from legal states. And that's what has led to these illnesses and deaths, and I'll be glad to go into some of the numbers as well.
We just want to let our viewers know, people coming in chat now. We see people coming in and out of chat. We have a phone line for you. If you want to call in and register your opinion on all this, 443-505-7560, 443-505-7560. We have 5 lines open for you right now, so call in, come on in, and weigh in on this issue, because it really seems to be a problem, and it sounds as if and we see this often. The federal government gets involved and things get a little confused. It would seem as if they, and again, we were just talking about this. We'll mention this in a second. There was a tweet that came down from the president, and he seems to have expanded his not ban, but dislike of the products to the street carts, as some call them, or the illegal, illicit, handmade vaping oils, particularly used for THC. He's expanded it to that, but for the most part, they're going after the liquids, the flavored liquids, which they have aimed at. They said they're being aimed at children in the market, and they want to just put an end to all that. But it would seem that would open up a huge black market, would it not?
It absolutely would. And the reason why, if adults weren't liking flavors, if flavors were not important to adults, there wouldn't be this fear of a big black market. Congress wouldn't be discussing how do we possibly control this black market, as we saw an article from Roll Call today. And what is happening is, just to be more specific, is that they want to pull from the market, possibly within the next 45 days, all flavored products other than tobacco. So even with menthol cigarettes remaining freely legal and available on the market, the Trump administration, at least as of 2 days ago, or 1 day ago, wants to actually pull them immediately. Menthol cigarettes, you can keep selling them. And we think that that is going to lead to bad consequences when we know that fruit and sweet flavors, both in the US and the UK, are the #1 most popular flavor with adults, and especially with quitters, people who have made the switch. Tobacco flavors aren't going to help many smokers. They actually remind people of cigarettes and make it, perhaps in some studies are showing, makes it harder for smokers to switch.
Sure, and that's understandable, but arguably too, let's be real now, some of the flavors, some of the names of the flavors and packaging that we've seen doesn't necessarily. Now, I've been an adult for a while, and if somebody approached me with a flavor of gummy bear or bubble gum or tutti frutti, I'm not quite sure that would appeal to me. It would seem as if the manufacturers or the people that are manufacturing the product are in fact aiming it at children. Are they not in some way?
No, there is inappropriate marketing all over this industry in certain segments, but the issue is companies that are marketing to millennials. Every millennial today is a legal adult consumer. And so you go after people that, I'm at the end spectrum of a millennial, and if I was not involved in this issue and see what those kind of labels can cause, the kind of harm that they can cause in public perception, I would actually be very interested in using those products. There are people who may call into the show tonight who used flavors that have extravagant names, appealing names, but it's the names that can be a problem. And so just banning anything that tastes good is not a solution. It's just going to cause people to make their own. And yes, flavors absolutely are for adults, but there is some bad marketing that can be controlled. That's the kind of stuff President Trump should be trying to do.
Sure. See one question coming in here. One person says, I started vaping about a year ago, never felt better. My son Jesse begged me to quit smoking and tried gum, patches, prescriptions, everything. So you find that a lot of people have switched to vaping. They find it not only a reasonable alternative, but a safe alternative. That is true. However, the companies such as Juul and Blue and other companies, they really haven't proved that to the FDA yet. Of course, the FDA issued a warning letter to Juul about a week ago, said the company violated federal regulations because it hadn't received approval to market its product as a, quote, healthier alternative to smoking. What's taken them so long? And when I say what's taken them, what's taken it? Is it the FDA? Is it the manufacturers? I mean, what is it? The chicken before the egg? Who was supposed to come first on this? It seems as if the FDA should have issued that letter long ago, or Juul should have complied with the FDA standards some time ago. What's going on there?
Well, first of all, there's plenty of problems to have with Juul. There are 4 of the 5 claims the FDA says in that letter, completely uncorroborated witness testimony from teenagers whose moms form the largest anti-vaping parents group in the country. So the FDA actually just citing that testimony in a warning letter with no investigation, a little suspect in my mind. But the reason why, there's twofold. One, the FDA needs to give guidance to companies. Applying for a pre-market tobacco application, even for a product that's legally allowed in the market today, is a multi-million-dollar endeavor. And you are looking at an FDA that just until only about 2 months ago had not yet released guidance to the industry, final guidance. So these companies, they have millions and billions, some of them billions, certainly of dollars to spend. They didn't know what the FDA wanted. And secondly, the FDA does have a very prohibitionist streak in them. So this industry and its consumers are extremely concerned that even if the industry did all the toxicology, all the physiology in the world, all the research showing that adults are going to switch to this product, they enjoy it, they credit it with helping them stay smoke-free, that the FDA could still return and say, we're just uncomfortable with anything not named tobacco, so all that money you spent, it doesn't matter if you've proven that it's far less hazardous, which the FDA, by and large, former Commissioner Scott Gottlieb, when he was in office, said smokers who switch to the products, it's a great benefit to public health. But the long-term worry is that the FDA, you can spend millions and millions of dollars, the FDA is going to deny things other than tobacco.
Sure. Got a bunch of people coming in chat tonight. Just wanted to say hello to Royce, Ellie, Crystal. How are you? Hi. You said hi to Ellie. I want to say hi to you. I don't think I know you, but we'll say hi to you. David, just wanted to run this back again on our lower third there. David says you don't give whiskey-flavored water to recovering alcoholics, and you shouldn't force ex-smokers to use flavors that remind them of tobacco. So that seems to support what you were just saying, Greg. Our phone lines are open too. Just want to remind you that 443-505-7560. 443-505-7560. Don't leave it to chat. Go ahead and pick up that phone right now and give a call. You can talk to myself, talk to Greg, and weigh in on this situation that just seems to be growing. It doesn't seem to it's gathering more steam than it's being controlled at this point. Talk to me a second about the tobacco lobby. It would seem that a government that is concerned about over banning something is being driven by something else in the background. And we know that tobacco lobby was one of the most powerful lobbies in the country for many years, probably still is. I mean, maybe second only to the NRA. Do they have a role in this, do you think, that we haven't heard of yet, Greg?
So they are powerful, but they're not that powerful actually these days. In Congress, they've failed to get several things passed that actually would have benefited them in the vapor industry while still not being great for smaller and medium-sized competitors. They couldn't even get something passed like that. And so it's possible that Juul, which is one-third owned by Altria, the largest cigarette company, they may have concluded and seen the writing on the wall with youth usage going up and deciding if we don't have just the products pulled from the market entirely, we may not be able to get the FDA to ever approve us despite our lobbying power. Mm-hmm. But there's no actual evidence of that. And the Health and Human Services Secretary, Azar, who is very heavily involved in this, he is no fan of just about anything involved with this.
Yeah, and it would seem as if the government and some of the naysayers, Dick Durbin, heard Dick Durbin's statement the other day. It seems like he may have an ulterior motive, but that's another story entirely.
Dick Durbin has not been a fan for many, many years.
Really?
He was one of the original that wanted the FDA to just pull all the products off the market immediately.
So they're smelling blood here, are they not?
Yeah, undoubtedly. We have several states that are looking at full-blown bans. I'm just very thankful that, with some exceptions, most state legislatures are not in session right now. So they can't just immediately come in tomorrow and within 24 hours pass a bill that will impact hundreds of thousands or millions of people in their state.
Mm-hmm. The FDA, or at least some physicians, we've gone back and forth with this. We had a doctor on last week also talking about this issue, but in a different vein. And he was a specialist who had done much research on nicotine. So while he does admit that there is a certain benefit, in fact, a lot of benefit to people who quit smoking, quit combustible smoke, and turn to vapor. Vapor, of course, being the gaseous portion of any fluid. I don't want to get into the whole science thing here and show my nerd thing going on. But to go to that alternative is just fine because you avoid all the downside with the combustible smoke. However, for those people who are still looking for it, I heard this. It was an advertisement, and the announcer said you can still get you can still have your smoking pleasure and get the satisfaction of nicotine. I thought to myself, really? Is that satisfaction of nicotine? What's that? Nicotine is still a somewhat harmful substance, or at least questionable substance. Is it not? Is there still a problem with nicotine?
No, because nicotine can form dependency, and when you have a dependence, especially the high nicotine products like Juul, especially when you have a dependence, you have a cost factor that you have to deal with. That should be a decision made by an adult whether to start using nicotine. Our position is that with 36 million smokers here in America, 1 billion around the world, that we should just focus on the smokers and getting them off of cigarettes and tell new users, period, do not use the products. But with nicotine has been studied for many years disconnected from smoke. Many of the studies in the United States try to look at nicotine, but they're on people who smoke cigarettes. In Sweden.
Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Continue your thought.
Well, in Sweden, they use a product called snus that goes in the upper lip, and nicotine there is used by more people per capita than anywhere in Europe, but yet they still have the lowest tobacco-related disease and death in all of Europe, because when you get rid of the combustion, the nicotine does give you a pleasure. It's a mild stimulant, but it's not actually causing the harm that comes from smoking.
When you say mild stimulant, is that for everybody across the board? And I may be getting far afield here. I know you're not a physician, or I'm assuming you're not a physician. We're talking mild stimulant for all people, or are there some people who respond to it differently than others, as far as you know?
I think it's much like caffeine. There are probably some people in the world that when they have caffeine, they have to avoid it because it gives them a headache. There are probably some people that don't smoke that have experimented because they had a negative reaction to the nicotine going to the brain. That's possible. But most people, it's just a mild stimulant, but it's a mild stimulant that if you're using a high amount of it, certainly could form a dependent, and then you have money to spend to have that habit. And that's a decision that should be made by adults.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And let's make no mistake about it. We're in this day and age where we have a lot of kids getting into a lot of things, and this happens to be one of them. I think across the board, where we have people in the industry, advocates such as yourself, I think we all agree that this is a product, this is a behavior that should be limited to adults.
Yes. Undoubtedly, we've supported age restrictions at the state level, and nowadays we're supportive of Tobacco 21. And it's a position that we did not take lightly, because all across America there are still 18, 19, and 20-year-olds addicted to cigarettes, to getting their nicotine through cigarettes. And to all of a sudden tell those 18, 19, and 20-year-olds you can't purchase nicotine anymore when they're dependent seems cruel. But ultimately we're at such a crisis point where the prospect of enacting Tobacco 21 and having 18-year-old high school students no longer allowed to go easily purchase products and supply them to 15, 16, and 17-year-olds and even lower. I think Tobacco 21 can have a positive contribution that way, along with sensible regulation, not just creating a black market.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so if all of us are in agreement that this shouldn't be in the hands of kids, how the hell is it in the hands of kids? I mean, I see more kids vaping, and I hang out a lot online, probably more than I should for a guy my age, but I see a lot of kids with this. In fact, I got to tell you, I see more kids than I see adults. I certainly haven't seen anybody in my peer group. I'm trying to think now. I've seen a couple, but I'm seeing mostly kids. How the hell is it getting into the hands of so many kids?
Unfortunately, you have adults who will buy them for them. When they ask on federal surveys, how do you obtain vapor products, the vast majority of teens aren't going to a 7-Eleven and buying them. They're getting them through social sources. So one youth will have a product, he'll share it with 7 different people, and then they're all e-cigarette users for the next 30 days, according to federal definitions. That's part of the issue. That's why Tobacco 21 can actually do a good, because you restrict the products and make it harder. Teens can still get alcohol, but you're not seeing the kinds of rate usages that you are seeing with nicotine products at the moment.
Where are they getting it from? I mean, is it legal? And excuse my ignorance here, I'm just not 18 anymore. Can they just walk into a 7-Eleven and buy this?
If you are 18,
I'm sorry, 18. Let's go under. If I'm 14 years old, can I walk into a 7-Eleven and get this?
No. The FDA and 49 states and the FDA all have laws against selling to people at least under 18. One state, Pennsylvania, actually does not have a law, but the FDA law covers it regardless.
So it would seem to be to everybody's benefit to hit this illegal or illicit market, because it seems as if not only is the illicit market growing in a way that nobody wants, it's causing some of the lung vaping illness and death, but it's this illegal market that's also supplying the products to children as well, are they not?
But also keep in mind, we've been fighting drug wars in this country for 100 years almost now, and they fail miserably. The product that is causing this is THC, not the THC itself, the chemical the drug dealers are putting in it. And so if you have rational marijuana laws and rational marijuana laws that don't make street cartridges half the price of a regulated cartridge, if you can come and find a way to actually continue to allow recreational stores and medical stores to be competitive, you're not going to have young adults and adults buying these cheap street-bought cartridges if there's a way for people to get legal recreational products.
So ultimately, what from the position of the AVA, what's the solution here, in your opinion?
The solution, Senator McConnell, as well as some Democrats, they have a bill to raise the age to 21 nationwide. We could pass that next week, and President Trump could sign it. We need the FDA to actually institute standards, to actually tell companies you can't add X number of chemicals to your devices. You need to actually give us more information about the products, but just coming out and saying 98% plus of products need to just be removed from the market, people aren't going to go away. People aren't going to stop. Some will return to cigarettes, the worst case scenario, even admitted by Senator Durbin, who's no fan of vaping products. But that's going to happen if you do something so crazy and wide like this.
Well, it would seem as if, at least at the very least, because again, I think you'll admit, roughly 10 years that vaping has been popular. This problem with the lung illness has simply come out of nowhere. It would seem to be an easy fix going forward.
Well, prohibition, there is no easy fix to prohibition. So what's going to actually fix this with the THC cartridges is not the government. It is actually the dealers and their customers learning about these illnesses and saying, well, it's bad for business if I kill people, if customers find out that my carts are hurting people, not to mention that there have been 2 big arrests just in the past week, one in Utah, one in Wisconsin. But you're going to, if you arrest a drug dealer, there's one to replace them the next day. So there is no long-term fix, but hopefully knowledge will lead people to not add dilutants or thickeners that are dangerous.
Absolutely.
But
well,
not a nicotine vaping product, ultimately.
I'm sorry, say that last part again.
But ultimately, this is what's important for people to know, is that these lung illnesses are very clearly linked to these bootleg contaminated THC cartridges, not the store-bought nicotine vaping products. So if you are a friend or a family member or a smoker, please don't be scared away from recommending that they try a store-bought vaping product to get off cigarettes. Good point.
Greg Conley, appreciate your insight and your opinion tonight. Can we call on you again as this problem hopefully is solved, or unfortunately if it gets larger, and bring you back on, because you're just a wealth of information.
Of course, and your viewers as well. 9 p.m. Eastern tonight, I will be on at some point during the hour with Chris Cuomo on CNN. So check that out.
All right, we will do that. Greg Conley from the American Vaping Association. Thank you so very much for joining us on Now Tonight. Have a great weekend.
Thank you. You too.
All right, and thank you for joining us. It's very informative tonight. We had about 77, 80 some odd people in, just reining in on the vaping problem. We thank you all for coming and sharing your opinions with us, if only by chat. Next week, we're into the Friday Rewind, our week we look back at some of the events that have happened during the week. We hope you'll join us then. Until then, have a great weekend. We'll see you soon.